we'll get going. So I usually take off the glasses just for no glare, but I can't see anything. So that's the bad part about taking off that. So, hey, welcome to the Gopher CEO community. Thank you so much for being live today. We're going to have a special guest. I really appreciate the person I have on today because over the last probably 5, 10, 15 years, I remember meeting her at an e-woman network and being one of those gregarious and just outgoing and unbelievably energetic people, you attract to this person, and Marie and I have created a relationship over the last 15 years, like I said, or so. I've gotten to see her in different venues or different businesses, but over the last few years also, she's created a monster in the revenue business that she has. So I'm going to let her share with you today a little bit about what's going on. And remember, look, Gopher CEO is about startups to 25 million in revenue. So we believe that this underserved community that you're watching today, or maybe in the future, is you're going to learn a little bit about what this business owner did, what they started, how they started, what's the cost, what are the marketing things, what are operations, and all those stories. So, and a little bit about Marie as well. So Marie, thank you so much for coming on to Gopher CEO. How are you?
John, I'm good. I'm so blessed that you were one of my first emails and that I got to keep you for 15 years. That's an amazing thing.
I know. Well, friendships and relationships, kind of evolve. And that's one of the things that I know that every time I've been able to call you or just kind of reconnect with you, it always feels like, we just spoke yesterday. So I value those relationships. So thank you for coming on.
I'm so thrilled to be here and I'm so excited about the project that you're doing.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Well, you're going to be very much involved. I know I'm learning a lot from you. So tell the audience a little bit of kind of where you've been and where you're headed right now and how you started at Revenue.
So I was one of those people that was entirely unemployable. I would come into a company and typically my brain was going so fast and I saw all of the opportunities that were for that company that as a secretary, they weren't real interested in listening to what my ideas were, even when I was outselling the entire sales staff. So at the age of 22, I started my first company. I had a very unsuccessful attempt at trying to explain unionization to belly dancers because I had been a belly dancer since I was 15. And so as a good entrepreneurial spirit does, I said, forget it, I'm going to go start my own business. And so I started Shimmy Shock Entertainment. And of course, it was just a side hustle and a hobby. But it taught me a lot about how to get myself out in the market. And this was 2004, maybe 2003. From there, I had an opportunity to start a medical spa. And so I put myself through skin school at night and ran the spa during the day and learned that I needed to know how to sell and how to network. And I tend to jump in head first. So instead of going and learning how to network, I became the managing director of eWomen Network and grew that organization from 12 to 350 members in the Chicagoland area over the course of 5 years, and enrolled myself in sales coaching because I knew that coaching was going to be the key to being able to work in whatever kind of business I really wanted. As I was running eWomen Network, I was really connecting with the women that were there. And mind you, I was 25. I had no business leading 45, 65-year-old women in how to network and how to grow their companies. But I started seeing things that I found really disturbing. I started seeing random acts of marketing that never produced ROI. I started seeing marketing companies that were grabbing and keeping people's websites unless they continued to pay. And when I get angry, I start a business. So I started Lipstick Logic, which was my marketing consulting practice that I had for about 10 years. And we really specialized in creating the internal systems for small business owners so that they could maintain their own processes, read the KPIs, and continue to progress until they could hire somebody into the roles that were needed within their company for marketing, for sales, and that kind of thing. And honestly, I spent about 10 years passing leads back and forth between myself and my sales coach, Jim Rosas, because inevitably he would have a great sales team with no leads, and I would have a great marketing funnel and nobody that could close. And after 10 years, we became a family. And about 2 years later, we started At Revenue and put those companies together. And that was about 2006. And it was absolutely lightning in a bottle. We surpassed our first year sales goal in the first 3 months. And unfortunately, he passed 7 months after we started.
Oh, wow.
So all of those operations that we had put in place, all of those structures and relationships that we had built over 20 years were what saved me. And so we take those methodologies and those experiences of what does happen when someone gets hit by a wine truck. He didn't get hit by a wine truck. That's just the term that I use. But what happens when the worst possible thing happens? And how do you keep walking? And hopefully the clients that we work with get to benefit from the experiences that I've had in creating a business that is secure, recession proof, and able to hold itself together when sometimes you can't.
Yeah, that had to be pretty emotional, right? Building that relationship over so many years, deciding to get together. What initially gave you that inkling? Like, what are some KPIs that you saw? Because I know we kind of went through that a little bit there, but can you go back just a little bit to say, hey, I had this part of the business and he had this part of the business. How did you actually sit down? What were maybe some meetings, some thoughts that you guys talked about to then form At Revenue?
So we really looked at the intersection of sales and marketing and realized that what was really missing in the market itself was an integrated approach to create a hand in glove experience for sales and marketing where they are communicating effectively and growing together. Usually it's like pointing across the hall. So as we were forming the concept for the practice, the first thing we did, of course, was a competitive analysis and made sure that we had a space and a voice where it wasn't going to take us a lot of money or effort to enter that market effectively. And then we looked at the KPIs that we knew we needed to see. What is the strength of my network? What are the actual email addresses? What are the LinkedIn connections? And do I actually know these people? Do I know them, or are they just names on a page that I haven't touched in 5 years? And we have, being process and operational oriented, we have a CRM that we actually track the value of the relationships that we have. We have structures for building referral partnerships and strategic partnerships and base network relationships. And we looked at, okay, is there value here, and where do we get started? And as we started to do the outreach, and of course we had to build the brand, we had to build all of the pieces that go with launching an organization, which I'm more than happy to dive into, but it can be a little bit of that marketing clickety click talk. We started looking at, okay, if I make, and this is old sales dog stuff, but if I make 30 calls, how many of my calls get answered? What is the value of my network? If I ask for a referral, am I clear enough that the other person knows what I do and can actually refer me to somebody that is of quality? They might not be in a buying cycle. They might only be marketing qualified, but are they of quality? And am I finding people that match the values of this company? And that's a hard one to quantify, right? If you think about a KPI for values, it gets really ambiguous. And so we put together a structure of what those initial conversations sound like and what we were listening for. And that's how we started to rate the value of our network and of our relationships and of the clients that were coming in. Because any small business owner knows that if you pull in the wrong client, it will cost you more than any marketing mistake you can ever make. And sometimes we learn that lesson over again, right? Because sometimes you just go for the sale. But we really looked to build a company that was based on, can we do business from a place of professional love with clients and partners that share our values? And are we building relationships, or are we simply selling for the sake of sales? That was the beginning of every one of our weekly sales meetings as we started to review KPIs.
I love it. There's a lot of depth to what you just said. So I hope people replay, that specific, minute and a half right there, because, when you start a business, as we all know, it's challenging. And then you want to know, do you partner up with someone that has the same values? You talked about values. Do you pursue certain clients? What's the strategic marketing plan? All those types of things, right? So it's interesting, and appreciate you sharing that. So tell me, obviously you had a pretty abrupt situation that happens, right? You're 7 months in. Gosh, your partner and person that you'd known for many years, that you decided to build a business, you get this abrupt situation. Walk us through kind of just the formation of, all right, I lose one of my partners. How did you have some structural things already set up, be it from, we've never discussed it on this channel, but like a buy-sell agreement or anything that was able to then, I don't know if he was married offhand or had
No, he was my life partner.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah.
So, wow. So then that brought in another depth of emotions, right? So, wow. I did not know that. Well, that brings another twist. So, you have this situation. Can you walk us through a little bit, maybe not to the personal side, but more to kind of the business? Like, how did you already have some employees in place? Because I want to teach people, when something tragic happens, like, what did you do to kind of get you through that? You now noticed, man, I set up these strategic structures, but now I'm walking through this emotional time, and I'm actually to get over to the next level. So walk with us on that.
So when we set up the partnership agreement, I was always 51% owner, because I'm a little feisty that way. But we 100% had a buy-sell agreement that included any structures or percentages of the business that should be left to family members and that kind of thing. And we made sure that we went to trusted advisors before we made any steps forward. It was very important for us, especially after watching as many businesses as we had rise and fall, that we had the legal and operational structures in place before we went out and sought to close, right? Which is very hard for an entrepreneur, because you've got a big idea. You want to get out there and do the thing. But this was not our first rodeo. So making sure that legally I knew what was happening was a great comfort. From an operational perspective, there were two things that were absolutely integral. One is that we did not have employees, we had contractors. And we had a system of, bless you, baby girl. We had a system set up, and we still do, where every person that comes onto at revenue is 3 months contract to hire. And so at that phase, there were still just contractors that we were working with. But the project management system that we had set up was so articulated that each one of them knew exactly where they were in their projects, what needed to happen, what the timeline was, and what the expectations were. I also had some great contractors, and many of them stepped up in unbelievable ways to make sure that during the 3 weeks that I took to figure life out, they carried me. And they did a great job. The other thing that is a little bit more of a soft skill that was mind-blowing for me is that I have been a Franklin Covey user since I was 22. I have carried the paper Franklin Covey planner with me, with my goals set in the background and chunked down into timelines and all of the things. And the practice of staying connected to my goals and where we were supposed to be as an organization within the timeline, where I was supposed to be for my family members, where I was supposed to be for myself, and having had connected with that over and over again on a weekly basis as I planned my priorities, when I couldn't see, somehow, having gone through that, it held me because it was stored in my subconscious. And so when I looked back at those goals at the end of the year, even though I had fallen off of, doing the weekly thing, and we had hit every goal that we had set for that company according to the timeline that we had anticipated.
Wow.
Because it had been part of my practice, because I was emotionally connected to it. And so that then became part of our internal process, is that every employee gets a personal development track, and Franklin Covey is at the core of it.
What an amazing foundation that, the first probably 10, 15 years of your business career, multiple businesses and looking at this structured. So, one of the clues there, guys and gals, is listening to what Marie said, right? Is she had built a foundation of what would then lead her to this situation that happened, right? I have an acronym that I've been trying to get out there a little bit more, is AOA, right? Assess, organize, attack, right? So, what I'm getting from what you said is, you assessed very early, all the attributes and the things that had built you up. You got organized when you and your partner launched at Revenue. And then when you went to attack, even though you had a setback and it's super emotional, obviously, you had already put things together. So what a great story to share, that for people to value and really take a time. I think, you're right. There's a lot of preemptive kind of speed to get to market as an entrepreneur, because we're individuals, we're self-employed, we're trying to get out there, right? All that type of stuff. But you just set a great foundation. Thank you so much for sharing that. So tell us now, as you get through that period, and how long ago was that? I'm sorry.
2017.
2017. Okay, so 3 years, ago. Obviously, right now, for anybody that's watching a few years from now or 10 years from now, this is pandemic 2020, and 3 years into it, you still have a solid business. I see your brand here and there, and I'm not even in the same circles necessarily all the time with you, but can you share with us then, all right, now you've got these independent contractors, you've set up this system, you said contractor to hire. How did that work, and where are you at in this scale side of things for your business? And, give us some insight on that.
Yeah, so the system that we've followed is traditionally referred to as a hub and spoke model, right? We have an internal hub that holds the visionary, the integrator, and the implementation team, really project managers. And then we go out and seek subject matter experts, because we want to make sure that we've got experts on every part of our client's work, as opposed to just generalists. And so as we've built that through, there are always going to be people that you see that you want to have on your team, right? Sometimes you can afford them and sometimes you can't. And what I think is really unique about the contract to hire model that we have is, listen, there is no guarantee of hire. A lot of the contractors that we work with don't want full-time employment, which is, they've got other projects. Absolutely fine. But that 3 months gives me an opportunity to see the character of the person, because anybody can interview well, right? That is my biggest regrets have been when I let my heart supersede that particular model and went ahead and made the hire, because we do offer benefits day one. We do offer a full package, because for me, it's very important that I would never allow somebody to show up and put their heart into my dream and not make sure that they were very well taken care of.
Mm.
And that's difficult for small businesses. Insurance is expensive. Salaries are expensive. And you know that there are times when you're not going to take your full salary, but everybody else is going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so having this particular model has allowed the organization to shrink and grow in accordance with the market. That is part of what makes it recession proof. If we need to shrink down to just a CEO and all spokes, we can do that. And I've also done every job in my company. There is not a piece of the sales or marketing experience that I have not done and succeeded at first. So I know what to look for. And then when we've got the appropriate cash flow and when I see the market is in the right place, I can select the right team members to bring in. And so there's been times when we've had 5 internal employees. Right now we are at 2, probably about to be 4. But the first person I always look for is the integrator, because I am the visionary. I always see big. And one of my favorites moments, I was at a conference that I was speaking at for the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and Barbara Corcoran was there. And she said, every great partnership has an expander and a container. And I was like, that, because if you've got 2 visionaries, you're going to get ooh shiny syndrome like crazy. You're gonna be running all over the place.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have somebody that can say yes, and let's do this part first, and then we can go here, you're going to have a lot more success. So integrator is always first. Operations comes next, and having somebody that can really do that operations and financial role well. And then when it comes time to hire talent, once we've got the cash flow that can sustain that, then we can start to add some of the implementation members to that full-time pool. But we do want to keep it light. We do want to keep that internal team light, because those are now on your cash flow in a way that you don't have the ability to say, you know what, right now cash flow is tight. I'm going to take this work on my desk.
No, you have to feed them, right? So
you got to feed them, and they always come first, and they should.
For sure.
They should. So
sure.
That's how we've been able to, we've had, candidly, we've had 2 people pass away suddenly within the organization.
Wow.
Now we're in pandemic. And when pandemic hit, we're a marketing company and a sales company. And guess what changed? How people took in information and how they made decisions, because we all got exhausted. So we had to redo everybody's strategy several times, through civil unrest, through political climate, through all of those things. That means that we're putting in more for our clients now than we ever have, not because we're just being gracious, but because it's necessary. And if we didn't have this ability to flex, we wouldn't financially be able to do that for them and maintain our integrity with our clients.
You know, you said, I'm picking up on, kind of the metaphor of your lungs, right? Expanding, bringing in that oxygen, which is those people, right? Reducing to kind of exhale the things that you don't need at this time, right? And a lot to learn from running a business that's, very lean, but also expanding at the moments that you need to. You just talked about pivoting in a way of kind of pivoting within your clientele. Can you tell us 1 or 2 stories of a client or so, not having to put names or anything, but maybe a story or two during this time that you helped them pivot with the services that you provided.
Yeah. So we've got a client who is an association, and they're a leader in their particular field. And they've had a conference for 17 years that has been the hallmark of their organization. And guess what was not happening this year? A big live conference. And there was a lot of fear as they had to figure out what to do about that, because they didn't think they could charge what they had charged in the past. They didn't think they could get the attendance because teachers are fatigued, and that is their main group that they serve, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine a teacher right now taking 3 days over the weekend to do additional learning? Like, come on, like, we know they need it, but are they going to show? And so we helped them re-strategize how they were communicating that socially, digitally, and even just threw in some extra love around, what some of the sponsorship packages should look like, and how to pivot this for a digital experience. They met all of their sales numbers, both in attendance and in sponsorship. They had the highest social engagement they'd ever had in the history of their organization for that conference. And we also got to plug in a really cool opportunity to bring in a middle school student social media influencer and we taught them how to do social media and how to interview, and got them connected with some of the speakers that were there. And we're able to create this experience that was more than what people were expecting, and maintained the value of what those people were used to getting from the live conference, to the point where they were asking if they could continue to have a virtual experience at the next conference.
Yeah.
And the social media wildfire was it was tremendous. And then when you get to work with these amazing kids and see how you can integrate what's coming from the future or in the future into what is now, and create something new and spectacular in a space that wasn't before.
Wow, what a great pivot and great story. I mean, to take someone, I know I've seen some other companies kind of approach it where they may have a studio look or some sort of screens, round screens and stuff. So I can't wait to see, maybe you could share a link and we could put it into the bio of this message for them to see, how @Revenue revolutionized that pivoting for this organization. So tell me, we've talked about obviously how kind of you take your approach to scale, breathing like a lung, expanding, decreasing if you need to be lean and mean. You've shared a little bit about pivoting within your customer base and seeing what their needs are first and kind of integrating your specialty in those things. So, one of the other parts of CEO is operations, right? So, how do you maintain integrity within the lines of business, and how do they bring in their revenues so that you can keep on growing?
So operations is kind of my love language.
Okay.
I am not the person to set up all of the pieces, and I know that, but it is truly the most clarity, and the best KPIs you'll get from your business are in your financial reports and in the integrity and strength of your operations. So one of the things that we do focus on is making sure that we review our operations consistently, using tools like Teamwork, which is a project management tool. There's Asana, there's Trello, there's many of them, to ensure that not only deadlines are being met on time, but that the flows are in there appropriately, and that very little is left to chance when it comes to serving your clients, and then templatizing those things over and over again is going to allow you to scale and allow the CEO to let go a lot more. We have a rule within our organization. Everything that we look at, whether it's new or we've done it a million times, can I automate this? Can I duplicate this? Should I delegate this? And if we keep that focus when it comes to the daily tasks that we do or the projects we take on, it allows us to expand services, refine services, and find ways to expedite things that should be step and repeat. Part of that too is matching that to your financials and making sure that you understand what the profit margin is on each one of the services that you provide, so that as you are building the company and the packages that you're offering, you've got a very clear understanding of which lever to pull or market to when you do need to increase revenue. And if there is something that is a loss leader, it needs to be on your books in a way that represents the fact that it is a loss leader, and take that into consideration when you are using it as a tool to close business. And so we are, and I will tell you, finding a good bookkeeper is not easy. It's not just finding somebody that can put the numbers in the right place. It's having somebody that truly understands your operational structure and your tech stack and can work with it to help you elevate. But once you've found that person, that review, that consistent connection with not just what is bringing in money, but what is allowing you to make and keep money, is how you create stability for the company. And a great example is, we had a speakers bureau at Revenue. We taught people to speak, how to use neuro-linguistic programming on stage so that they could close better, rep strategic marketing efforts. Sorry, I thought I muted all my notifications. That obviously did not happen. Make sure that they've got strategy and but all of the things, right? And I'd set it up in such a way that typically speakers were only paying for about 3 months of active search. And then once we would go into the search for the next speaker, we're always going to find other opportunities so they could ride the tailwind of that other speaker as it came through. I thought this was a brilliant model, right? It allowed me to keep searching for folks, and then we would get commission on the things that they hadn't paid us to go out and find. And then, hello, pandemic. The entire model changed. So speaking is a completely different game now. And so as we were really pounding through what our profitability was on the different things that we were offering, we took a look back at the Speakers Bureau and realized that with the hours we were investing, we were not making the kind of margins we expect to see from the service. And so we were able to take and reformulate what that particular program looks like and create an offering that was attuned to where the market is, and learn from the profitability mistake we had made before to be able to create the kind of revenue that we demand from each individual sector of our services.
Was that a function of how much you're charging, how much time you're spending, equating to what you're charging, or the type of client that you're bringing on in that situation?
That was very much a function of the amount of time that it took to research the conference circuit and the outreach and the sales cycle. Typically, booking a conference is a 9 to 12 month sales cycle. And so the amount of time that it would take for us to actually get the commission from a booked event was not catching up as quickly as it needed to with the amount of hours that needed to be put in research and development.
Interesting. So, and these are different types of models, ladies and gentlemen. You're talking about services, you're talking about manufacturing that we've had on. We've had a pavement group. Actually, on Friday, you brought up bookkeeping, but just outsourcing of a CFO service. A gentleman, I just read his book called Taboo Business Questions. He wrote a book and become friendly over the last few months. I'm going to have him on Friday, so should be a good compliment to this interview. So, when you look at strategically now operations and what you're sharing, where and how fast did you grow revenue at expectations? You said that, it was kind of a 1-year goal into 3 months when you first started the company. Obviously, you have something tragic happen. What's been the growth on a quarterly basis? And if you could share, our channel's about startups to 25 million. Where in that, gap of space are you, and where do you expect to be over the next 2 or 3 years?
So we had, in our first year, we had expected to hit about 250. We hit around, and it was just he and I, when we had put those goals together. We probably landed right around 395, and we were able to increase by 27% the next year, which was how, I don't know, because he wasn't there. It was just sheer drive. And the year after that, we slid back a little bit, and it was a tough thing to see, because you always want to see your business move forward. But it was I had to use it as an indicator of, are you still meeting your market, or are you just continuing to march to the vision that you had? Are you listening? This year, we are slated to actually exceed our 2018 revenue by about another 25%. And we're just getting ready to roll out what should be a completely revolutionary business model that we anticipate will take us well past 7 figures in the first quarter of next year.
Wow. So you're talking about, I mean, I'm a numbers guy, so I kind of did all the quick math in my brain. You were probably about a little bit less than a $500,000 company in revenue. And now you're saying over the next 6 months, which is this last quarter, the first quarter of 2021, boom, over the 7-figure mark.
Easily.
Wow. That's amazing, and congrats to you. And you know what? There does come that time, right, in business where you kind of are just flowing, and then all of a sudden you just go straight up, right? Figure out the actual, whatever curve it is. But so happy for you, so happy. And you said, like, how do we maintain, how to grow? I think you said it earlier, and you shared with the audience, you had structure, you had organization, you had systems in place. And through some challenging times, you had incredible people around you. So kudos for you. And I hope everybody's really can replay this over and over, because I think that there's some great nuggets that if you take some time to really take some notes down, I think you learn a lot from Marie and At Revenue and what they're doing. So we like to end our recent podcasts with a couple questions. The Go for CEO mindset is really about bringing hopefully that smaller market, that start up to 25 million in revenue, bringing the stories like yourself, a true entrepreneur, a true CEO of her business. But then the C is about client experience, the E is about employee engagement, and the O is about operational excellence. So I'll walk you through these, and you can mix them if you want, or we can go separately. But what would you say is the key differentiator for At Revenue to create that wow client experience?
So we have built this company on professional love. We talk about love all the time, in the company, out of the company, with the clients. And what professional love means to us in the client experience is that you're willing to say the hard thing. You're willing to ask the hard question. And when it's not a good fit, when it's time to shake them a little bit and say, hey, you're going down a path that's not going to serve you, or I messed up. This was not what we expected to deliver. You take 100% ownership for whatever it is, whether they did it or you did it. Success Principles has been kind of, by Jack Canfield, has been kind of the Bible that we use within the organization. And the very first chapter is you take 100% responsibility for your life. We use that same principle with our clients. Show up with love, take responsibility, make it right.
Awesome. I love it. So let's transition to employee engagement. And obviously you have this model of kind of independent contractor to bring into your organization. You test them, they test you, but they also show you what they're worth. What's a differentiator at revenue for employee engagement?
So when we're looking at employee engagement, we actually do look at our contractors in that spectrum. We built this model so that all of those freelancers, those contractors out there, were getting fed from a personal development point of view, as well as from a financial perspective. And so for us, employee engagement is one, starting out with a clear identification of what it means to be the at revenue brand and what our brand values are. And then we make sure that we put in as much as we can to their goals as they put into our goals. We have 1,500 square feet of beautiful office space that I haven't seen in 5 months that was literally there for our contractors to come work from and to be a workspace for people who don't suck. Like, that's what it was for. We'll figure that out later. But it was really about making sure that we were listening to every stakeholder. And if they had a need professionally or emotionally, that we found the resources to make sure that we could lift them up and really follow that lift as we climb model.
Love it. Love it. And we'll end with operational excellence. I know you gave a brief kind of 5-10 minutes there that's been excellent, and I hope people go back to it. But what would you say to quantify it into maybe one deliverable of what's the differentiating value on operational excellence for ad revenue?
Try it, track it, change it.
Boom. I love it. I love it. So, simplicity is the enemy of, I forgot what it's called. Some of my, I think the guy I follow, Ed Milet, he talks about simplicity and how you do things, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we try to overcomplicate things, right? So having great acronyms or great sayings or great things that you can pull from, right? Hopefully my AOA will become something like that in the future. So Marie, anything else that you want to share with the community? And one of the things that we do is, hopefully you'll come and you'll give us a chance to have you on again 6 to 12 months from now, because I am excited about that after the first quarter, how you're going to be pacing to that 7-figure revenue. But anything else that you'd like to share with the community, or even just share about what's going on with that revenue and this bombshell that's coming out in November? I don't know if you want to say anything, but anything that you want to say personally.
I think that this is an extraordinary time for authenticity. There are so many people that we meet, and if you've been to a networking event in the past couple of years, you almost walk in and you see that everybody puts on this mask of, I've got it all together. Everything's great. My business is soaring. And it's not the truth. And it doesn't allow you to connect with other people or learn from other people or ask for help when you truly need it. And so there's been kind of a leveling that's happened with the pandemic, where if you ask anybody how they're doing right now, you typically get a pause or like a heavy sigh before they answer and say, I'm great. How are you? And the truth is we know that not everybody's great. We know that there are people that are out there that are struggling, that have their kids running around them as they're trying to do an interview and trying to be the world's worst 3rd grade teacher while running a company. And if we take this time to actually open up and authentically connect with one another and share the challenges that we have, we're going to be able to change some of the structures that have possibly held us back, that have created roadblocks that we didn't need, and to help somebody else through an experience that is so universal, and that at the end of the day is truly like grief. We've all lost our way of living, and people are scared of grief. They don't want to talk about it. It's painful, it's scary. But if we can learn how to do it together and share the experiences that we've had, you get through it faster. And once you're on that journey, you've got people there that you can reach out to when everything's going wrong, that are going to be there when everything's going right. And those are the people that deserve a seat at your table.
Wow. But I will say this is probably my most emotional interview. I've felt kind of that just that passion inside you, that you know, the ability to share. Obviously, your beautiful daughter there, and just everything. So hopefully, we're bringing that authenticity too. And what you just shared was so deep. So thank you so much for being a part of the Go for CEO platform. And look, everybody, you know, Marie at Revenue. We'll get some of her links and everything. We'll put them into the bio of this message. But I want you to follow her. You know, can you share a little bit about where you're at, like Instagram, all that type of stuff?
Absolutely. So you can find us at atrevenue.com, atrevenue on Instagram, atrevenue on Facebook, and we are Revenue Chicago on Twitter. My name is Marie Hale. LinkedIn is an awesome place to find me, but more importantly, I'd love to find you a seat at an event that I'm having, or a seat at a networking table that I'm part of. Let me show you a little bit about how it can be different.
I love it. So, well, guys and gals, thank you so much for being a part of the cast today, and we'll bid you adieu. But we'll be seeing you, Marie, in about 6 to 12 months on the Go for CEO channel, and seeing what you're up to next. And I can't wait to hear about the secret that's coming in November. So thank you so much for joining us.